Wow. Woo! Woo! Say, USA. Wow. Are there any FBI agents out there? Huh, yeah. I can't wait for Kash Patel to get confirmed. Oh my God. You know, you're given so much time up here on the stage, and I prepared some remarks, and I was going to talk about war, because there's so many young people that are here that are going to experience war in your lifetime, and we're in the middle of a war, but I'm not going to go through my prepared remarks, because I just think that sometimes they get a little bit rote. But I want all of you to understand that, and I said this the day after this recent presidential election, that this is not, we can't declare victory over Europe here just yet. I used the metaphor, and I talked on the Alex Jones show, and I think on Bannon's War Room, I used the analogy the day after the election that this is like D-Day +1. If you study a little bit of history, know a little bit about World War II, the attack on Normandy Beach, we hit the cliffs there, we climbed the cliffs, we got into the hedgerows, and the first day after a very vicious set of battles where we lost tens of thousands of men on those beaches as we attacked into Europe, D-Day +1, we couldn't declare victory over Europe on that day. And we can't declare victory for the United States of America just yet. We still have about 30 days to go. And you see all this nonsense that's going on in Congress right now. While I was sitting back there, somebody gave me an update about what Speaker Mike Johnson just cut a deal with Jeffries. So one of the things that we have to do, and I always speak as though I will never be invited back. Because, for Turning Point and what Turning Point represents, it really is about the young people in our country. And I know we have a mixed bag in here. We have young and old that are in here for this great event. But the young people in this country have to understand it's your energy, your discipline, your courage that's going to have to take this country forward. I use this phrase, local action has a national impact. I met a woman a little while ago, about an hour and a half ago, who came up to me and said, I heard your message. She's from, I think it was from Nevada. And she said, I ran for school board, and now I'm on the school board. And I think that one of the things that we have to do is we cannot rely on one man. Okay, God ordained that man. Because what they really wanted is they wanted to turn his head into red mist. Okay, and they tried it not just once, but twice, and they will try it again. This is not about one person. Our country is not about one person. Our country was founded on a bedrock of Judeo-Christian principles and values. It is those values, that Constitution is impenetrable. We have to be fearless about it. You have to understand it. You have to understand what it means. And this is not about taking our country back to some place where we've been. This is about moving our country forward into a place where we must be, where we need to be. And I will tell you that one of the things that I have studied and I have lived is this idea of this state of perpetual war that we constantly find ourselves in. Since I've been alive, I was born on an Army base. Both of my grandfathers served in World War I. One of my grandfathers served in World War I and World War II. My father served in World War II and the Korean War. I had a brother that served during the Vietnam War. Myself and my younger brother Charlie, who's just recently retired, he hasn't quite retired yet. He's still serving. My son is serving. We have been in a state, in my lifetime, my adult lifetime, we have been in a state We've been in a state of perpetual war. I wrote a book about this quite a while back, and I talk about war as the norm in human society or human history, and peace is the aberration. I mean, for all of you that are, as I look back around some of these young faces, right? I mean, these young faces, and I've met a bunch of them out there in the hallways and stuff. I mean, in your lifetime, our nation has been at war your entire life. If you're in your early 20s, we've been at war your entire life. Since 2001, we have these wars over in Eastern Europe, the war in the Middle East. We got a war on our streets. We got a war on our border. We have wars against. I mean, we have wars that are going to kick in here with the Chinese government. China has already, and you've heard Tom Homan talk about this sometimes, right? I use the phrase, it's a military phrase, killed in action. On the streets of America in the last year, we've had over 200,000 Americans killed in action by fentanyl. Fentanyl is introduced by the Chinese, and then they bring it through their partners in the Mexican drug cartels, which hopefully we will designate them as foreign terrorist organizations and start using military. So this idea about perpetual, it's not something that we should be for. We should be, all these people in Congress, when you start to think about all these different debates, if you haven't been paying attention, you need to pay attention. Every single one of these documents that Congress tries to squeeze through, like this latest Defense Authorization Act, it would so tie Donald Trump's hands as president. It would tie his hands for damn near his entire presidency coming up. This bill, this latest bill, that when they said, you know, all of us got online, we got online, we said, yeah, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't pass this thing. They're going to pass it, and there is marginal changes to it. So they're going to say, oh, yeah, we changed it, we adjusted this, we changed the language here. It's bullshit. It's total bullshit. I mean, they will not change the essence of it. What they'll do is they adjust some words, they adjust some language. So these are things that are happening here and now, but what they do is they affect the young people. And I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to really get out there, and I think one of the things that a Turning Point organization does, but all of us, this idea about local action is so super important. It is something that we must get involved in our local communities. This country will only survive, we will only survive, because 4 years is like that. It's like it's a blip on the screen. This country will only survive if we get every single county back, every single town back. We retake our churches. All of you know what I'm talking about. There's churches out there. There's churches out there, and I'm a Catholic kid, born and raised. I got 9 brothers and sisters, and I'm telling you, we don't have enough preachers from the pulpits that are preaching exactly what we need in this country, the type of people that we should be looking for. We need to have that. If they're not doing that, then those of you sitting in the pews of America out there, you've got to stand up and you've got to start talking like that. We have got to stitch this country back one county at a time, county by county. We cannot do this in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump cannot do this alone. He's not going to be able to do this alone. We just can't do it. And we have a very limited time. So when we start to talk about 4 years, it's not 4 years. It's maybe a year, maybe 18 months. We can't wait for 100-day plans. Can't. Things have got to start happening. Now, you see all these things that are going on, through the transition process. But this transition, as I witness it, and I've witnessed a couple of them now, a few of them, this transition is actually harder than the one from 2016 to 2017. Because on the battlefield, and one of the things that you study when you study your enemies or your opposing forces, you always have to remember that the enemy has a vote. The enemy has a vote. And in this case, they have learned a lot of lessons. And there's things that they're already doing. Now, Trump is aware of some of these things. But the undermining by the current administration, this isn't a peaceful transfer of power. It's not a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing, giving more money, more billions of dollars to Iran. I mean, we're paying for the entire war in the Middle East, both sides. We're paying for all of it. Europe, they're talking about giving another, I don't know, $4-5 billion over to Ukraine. I mean, this is insane. And one of the things, as a military guy, as a general, I'm not anti-war. I'm anti-stupid war. One of the, I'm looking at the clock. Ha! Care less. You know, I want people to understand that, all of you, and I know we're live streaming to a lot of people. I mean, we'll live stream in this, you know, from this particular event, probably live stream to, I don't know, 100 million people. You know, this presidency, and I kind of coined the term that this presidency was a podcast presidency. Podcast presidency, because once Trump realized that the mainstream media wasn't doing the trick. You know, he's kind of an old school guy when it still comes to mainstream media. But he realized at the right time, I think back around probably last spring, that he needed to get into these podcasts, these various people. And then, of course, you had the different, you know, podcasts. You got Charlie, of course. You got Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and some of these others that you'll hear from over the weekend. But this idea about the information age, and I call it fifth-generation warfare. It's another book that I've written about fifth-generation warfare. We're in the midst of a war right now. And people need to understand that this war is very, very real. It's very real. And you have to stand up now. It's your turn. It's your responsibility to stand up. If you think about this nation, think about this nation from a historic perspective, okay? 250 years, or almost 250 years, we've kind of gone through, and we're in what I call the third arc of U.S. history. And I can go back to the ancient times if you want. But in this arc, this is a revolution that we are going through. The first one was the American Revolution, and we had George Washington. And we didn't know at the time that we were even going to be a country. We didn't have a constitution. We didn't have, well, all we had was some states that were kind of cobbled together, but there was no framework other than a group of people that said enough is enough. And they stood up, and we had the American Revolution, and we ended up with a constitution and this beautiful constitutional republic. The second arc of history, of U.S. history, very, very real, had to do with Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. There was another point in time where our country was at existential risk, where we weren't going to be a country, or we weren't going to have the country that was created at the founding during that first arc. And then we go through a long period of history. We go through world wars, but none of that was existential. Even World War I, World War II, it wasn't existential to this country. We just experienced in these last probably 10 years the third arc of U.S. history, and the person that we have to thank is Donald J. Trump for saying enough is enough. So if I leave you with anything, I leave you with this. Local action equals a national impact. If we cannot leave it up to one man, we have to do it as people, as citizens of this country. We have a citizen's responsibility to get involved in our local communities, in our churches, in our families. Get involved, stitch this country back, one county at a time. Help Donald Trump make this country great again. God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you very much.